Hi. Welcome back to another episode on the Healthy Wisdom series with Dr. Jen Chen. Today, we're going to continue with our topic, Becoming the Best Version of Yourself, the part 2 of this topic. So let's start by quickly reviewing what we talked about last week, because it is one of those really important things that I find if we can have enough repetition, we can then put it into action, and then perhaps it'll become a habit as we go along. The more we use it, the more we build those nerves and those wires, to make it into a habit. So, what are the 4 statements that we went over last week? I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to protect. I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to defend. Now, I'm so curious, how many of you have actually put those 4 statements into action and at least, tried it out in the past week to see if the decisions that you make are a little bit more centered with what you find is most important to you and to your being, that which is truly you. So this week, we're going to explore a few set of, I'd say, maybe guidelines as well. And there are little things that we can do on a day-to-day basis in terms of, reaching that best version of ourselves. This is a very, very short list. The list it can go as long as like 50, but I just picked the 3 that I could think of right off the bat as you guys are starting to implement some of these techniques and tools. So I picked the 3 that I found could maybe get you guys started on the right path. So the first one is to set some standards and then raise those standards. Now, what do I mean by that? Quite often, a lot of us don't even realize it, but we actually show people how we want to be treated. Now, I'm not the person who came up with this concept. This concept has been talked about for many, many years. And where I first learned about this concept was actually from Mr. Jack Canfield. And he is very well known for his chicken soup for the soul series that he co-wrote and established with his partner, Mark Victor Hansen. And so one of the things that he talked about is we show other people how we want to be treated. And it's one of those things that unless somebody points it out to you, you may not actually think about it in that context. A lot of us, we might be the yes person to everybody around us. Let me just give you an example. I guess as an Asian woman, we generally, in our culture, as a mother, we are going to be the person that takes care of pretty much everybody else first before we take care of ourselves. And as you all know, we need to take care of ourselves first before we have the energy and the ability to take care of other people, right? So it's like a totally sort of opposite way to function, but this is how culturally we've been raised to think. And I'm saying that as an Asian woman, but I mean, recently I actually heard J-Lo say that in her culture, the Latina culture, that's the exact same thing that they grew up in their environment, in their culture. And what they do is the exact same thing. They take care of everybody else's needs before they even consider thinking about their own. And so it was really neat to see that, even J-Lo, as famous and as successful as she is, she actually had some of those struggles as well because of the way she was raised. So setting some standards on for yourself and for others on how you want to be treated and how you would like others to treat you um, is is I think one of the starting points to not only allowing ourselves to feel like we are enough, but also to reach the best version of oneself. Because once you raise those standards, then you begin to look at, yourself in a different light, and your needs then also kind of come to the surface as well. Because quite often I find, the mothers that I, see in my clinic, and also the mothers that are amongst my friends, and even healthcare providers. I'm surrounded by lots of healthcare providers. We are those people who will take care of everybody else, and we will say yes, whatever it is that our patients need, whatever that our employees need, whatever that our spouses and our families need. Those are the first things that we actually think of, and we go ahead and we do those. And at the end of the day, you're running on a empty tank. And there's only so much you can do when you have an empty tank. We need to always have a set of standards by which we can operate within, so that we can actually get to fulfilling ourselves and our needs as well. Because you cannot take care of anybody else if you yourself are not being taken care of. So let's break it down into, like, I'd say generally four categories. First of all, the quality of your work. If you do good work, well, let's raise that standard. How about let's do great work, right? Because once you start doing great work that you feel really proud of, that you are very excited to contribute, you're going to find that it actually fuels you. So indirectly, what it's doing is it's also filling you up, because the better we feel about what we're doing, and what we're able to contribute to society, to your company, to your employees, in terms of good leadership, great sort of vision for your future. Those are things that will fill you up as a result, which is also getting some standards set and raising the bar, because then you're going to aim higher the next year, and the higher the next year. Let's talk about relationships. Well, what about, your friendships? Are you nurturing your relationships? Are you making the effort to actually, connect with your friends? I think COVID-19 gave us all a wake-up call, and it allowed us to actually sort of sit back and think about, hey, what are the things that I've neglected in the past few years? And I myself, I made a list of, the friends that I wanted to reconnect with, because during the process of building my business and wanting to expand my team at the clinic, I have certainly let go of some of those nurturing side of things, that I needed to kind of rekindle some of my friendships, and so it was a really nice break to take from solely focusing on one aspect of my life, and I was able to actually put some time into reconnecting and rebuilding some of those relationships. And that goes for family as well. A lot of us take our families for granted. I made sure that, on my list, I would check in with my parents and my grandma, and my sibling, my brother, and my sister-in-law. And from time to time, I would make the effort to try to connect, with everybody, that I felt like maybe I have not, paid as much attention to. And so setting the standard of at least doing it, and now I'm going to raise the bar. I'm going to make sure that I don't neglect it again. I want to make sure that it's in my schedule. If I need reminders, I'm going to write it in my schedule, put it in my calendar, and I'm going to, and like I said, you don't have to necessarily be spending like 2 hours on the phone with them. I mean, it would be lovely and really nice to do that. But, if it's just to send a quick message, just to tell them that you're thinking about them, or that, you were thinking about something really kind that they did for you at some point in time, or just sharing like a little joke or something small in your life, because people, we build trust via those small actions. And so by doing this, you certainly can rebuild some of that lost connection. So that is what I would highly recommend, because it's been an amazing period in time where, I've been able to rekindle some of those friendships and family and relationships. And even with your spouse, don't forget them. I mean, we often think of our kids, but, our spouse, the time that we have, face to face alone, I mean, it's really hard to do date nights nowadays because of COVID-19. But you know what? There's a lot of little moments during the day and the nights that, we can actually take, just maybe even half an hour. The other day, um, I was not in my best health, and, just very like, I guess, vulnerable at that point in time emotionally. And I had a really, really nice heart to heart conversation with Kelvin. And it was just a really nice way to reconnect, as a couple, as this partnership in our family. And, we kind of just went down memory lane a little bit, and we also then talked about, what it looks like in the future. And it was just a really lovely conversation. So I highly encourage you to take, just half an hour, of your day to do that. And let your partner know, how much you appreciate them, because, it is a team effort to make things as smoothly and um, as as wonderful as it can be, right? So the next thing that I also want to kind of make sure we kind of talk about is, like, this is going to just be a brief on this one topic, because I think communication and the language that we use around it, we're going to do a whole series on this, because this is a really important aspect of how we navigate through life, and how people respond to us, is the way we communicate, and the language that we use can play a huge part in, sort of, I guess, the outcome or the end result of any situation, no matter how great or how drastically challenging they may be. So languaging, how do we communicate? If you are communicating well, that's wonderful, but there's always room for improvement. Can you be more patient? Absolutely. Can you be more kind? Absolutely, right? And what are the words that we're using? Like, for example, instead of saying I can't, say, well, I'm working on it, right? So the words that we say to ourselves, those are going to be very important, especially when we're trying to move into the best version of ourselves, or the better version of ourselves, and then to the best version of ourselves. And remember, as a rule of thumb, just don't beat yourself up, because we are so hard on ourselves. I don't think anybody else is as hard on ourselves as we are. And so I want to just take this moment to remind you to not beat yourself up, and be your own cheerleader if you can. Absolutely. When nobody else is cheering for you, well, you know what? The least you could do is cheer yourself on. And that's how a lot of us have gotten out of the darkest moments in our lives. We had to become our own cheerleader. I had to become my own cheerleader when I've suffered, through some really, really dark health issues, when nobody else could give me the answers. I had to be my own rescuer at the beginning, obviously. And then, of course, we do get help as we go, right? And that's what I mean by, when you set your standards on and you show other people how you want to be treated, then the world starts to kind of make way for you and starts to change, you know. So it's a really magnificent